Hey Virgo. Your Aquarius season reading. Yes. My cat is eating in the background if you hear a kitty or some nibbling. So, at first you may want to make something of this moment that you're having. You may want to go right into problem solving, which is what some people do, right? It's a very Virgo thing of you to do. But really, this is a culmination of what you've, been working on. Not everything to fall apart, no. It's about everything that's falling apart is really just being washed away. And whatever maybe you feel like maybe you have to defend yourself against, or people putting you in a certain position, you realize it comes from once you put a few of those wands down, right? Once you release some of the responsibilities that you claimed because no one else decided to take them, or the responsibilities or the work you took on just because it wasn't getting done, all of the things that you can do, and then you have the strength to decide not to do, not to react in the ways that you have been, because it's been working against you almost, it looks like. And the courage is about taking a moment and analyzing, feeling, and assessing. Not just analyzing, knowing that you're right, or deeming that you're right in the situation. And really that's just giving you a false, if you've done that, it was just giving you a false value. Just feeding the ego, the protection, the parts of you that helped keep you safe at the time. But really now you understand that the cycles are coming to allow you to have greater moments of and experience more moments of joy. Joy is not so controlled, but it's also you creating that environment to experience it, which is within yourself and around yourself. To shift this tension as if you have complete control of your worth and value. Like getting somewhere will change you. Remember that saying that and this doesn't have to do specifically with money, but we'll use it as the metaphor, as the more money you make, it just very much exonerates or blows up more of who you really are, wherever you put that energy into. And you knowing yourself now is you being able to witness and understand that what's possibly been the protection that's being worn off is the one that keeps you close enough to what you want, yet constantly giving. Your validation has been too external, perhaps. Even though you may not be exactly in quote unquote the best place or best predicament, it's a good enough one, better than some, if you're comparing yourself, right? And if you find yourself in comparison or these places, you're just in a place of insecurity. But it could be around the Leo full moon that this is happening. This is when I'm doing this, about the day after, but we're still in that, that energy of it. And it's showing you this is what's maybe taking away from having more calculated risk experiences, new ones, because it's so much easier to calculate. But again, we talked about your nervous system before. This is why the hangman is needed. The strength and the courage is to let your body settle into this next phase. To understand where these parts of you where you felt like maybe you had to be really overly independent. Yet, if you're only relying on yourself and not on anyone or God, and God bringing certain people or situations, opportunities to you, you think you always have to go get them. Or you have to go do this and be this in order to get the next one. That may be true, but really it's about who you become. And the more that you can feel that and see that and experience that through this alchemization, giving yourself time to sift through and allow before you make any decisions. But you will want to make one. It looks like that's really what you're doing and what you're aiming towards. Like all of this is for a decision about what you want to take with you now. What you want to be in your control and what you're willing to let go of. It's like the test of have you learned? Are you ready? Can you trust? Trust the vision. Trust what you've learned. It's possible that these attachments came from someone overbearing, or maybe you're in I don't know, I don't want to say that, but some kind of overbearing system. Or this programming in your mind. What kept you protected? It kept you away from maybe some of your creativity, and now that you can feel more control in your way of creating, which is avenues of money in a way that where you can feel not just good about yourself, but confident in what you're doing. You're learning something from it as consequence. It's oh, this is I'm making money dope, but I'm also learning something this was unexpected. And some people are wow, I figure Virgos would go into things wanting to learn something. No, not always. Sometimes it's the learning is about learning how much money you can make without it being the sole focus. Once that becomes a sole focus, once there becomes a lack of patience, it's really a lack of wanting to experience possibly you and where you're at right now. And any of those parts need to be nurtured in the mind and externally. It looks like an internal and external thing. Being generous with yourself, with the parts of you that didn't know. Maybe looking back at your inner child, noticing how you treat yourself when you feel this way. Maybe that's what you've learned. Maybe that's something different that's important for you specifically. Yeah, the 10 of Swords now. You're really ending something here. It's allowing, there's some kind of softness within all this. In this air full of thought and wondering and understanding. This may help you surrender to and allow whatever. You can go over every scenario until you're so tired, and maybe that's what you need to do. And you may realize that's what you need in order to spiritually and physically tend to. Sometimes, it's not the funnest way, but to exhaust yourself and realize you have to give it up. And through this, you may find more purposeful action. You may even meet someone or learn something from a Taurus or Cancer in your life. Now we have the Hermit right over that Hanged Man. I didn't even see that was not intentional. But it looks like you might even want to devote yourself. Again, some course of study that keeps you going. Something that really, it's not just about the money, it's about the learning now. Something is continuously driving, or if you feel a driving force. It's not so hard event towards the end of the month. For a moment, it may feel like, okay, I'm tired, and then all of a sudden you may have an emotional release for some of you, right? This nervous system change, or it could even through again, joy. You may be experiencing and learning to understand that, because you know what I was thinking about too? I was thinking about a lot recently, so now it's all going to come out in all the readings. And we talked a little bit about addiction. We talked a little bit about just replacing one thing for another to an extent, not necessarily in those words in the first part, but how it's so easy to supplement when we need to, and we can rationalize it because, you're human too, because we're all human, and you are. And I'm not saying that to be sarcastic. I'm not saying that to be okay. It's really just you're here experiencing your life, and sometimes it's easier to be numb, or sometimes it's easier to be able to predict something, and now you feel there may be a safety and a trust, and maybe you find some spiritual path or more play in that, more wiggle room where you can even trust more, where you're finding a connection. Again, it may feel a lot easier to wake up and get going after that moment where you have to take a look at where parts of you weren't nurtured, and where now it is as annoying as it may seem at first. It's like that crying baby, or that crying animal in our barking. It's annoying at first, but then you realize it's a sound coming from somewhere within. When have there been times where you, and this doesn't always have to be true, but when are there times where you have cried out, or where you have wanted to but stopped yourself, and because you didn't want to feel annoying or inconvenience anyone else? This is not about any of that anymore. Now this is not something that's just going to inconvenience you. This is something that's going to come in and open up your mind and your life in a way that is creatively maybe hitting an emotional point that Pluto is not allowing you to ignore at this point, Virgo. Virgo risings, we talked a little bit about Aquarius being in your 6th house. This is something you're going through because work is going to transform over, the next 20 years. It's going to look different, right, than maybe you thought. But it's also transforming who and what responsibilities you feel like you really can commit to right now. You may really want and know that you can handle and juggle a couple of things right now, but if you focus on one and really put your energy into something that you may make a lot of money from, or an idea, from the 2 to the 1, this is saying decide. And then we had 3 here, so 3, 2, 1, and we have 2 aces. It's time. Yeah, we talked about that before. That's funny how it came back around. I didn't even think about it. You're going to make the decision, and it's right over the cards that we talked about it with. Love that. Love how there are reminders and then evolutions from the reminders. This is going to expand your life in a way in which you are, and realize how much experiencing joy, and we'll go back to that addiction, is for some people, what I've learned about addiction and experiencing joy is that it's so hard to experience joy in a healthy way, that there has to be something else, because then it also brings up you could also self-sabotage from here. This is also a comfortable place to self-sabotage, and you can just blame it on that. And not saying that that's for everyone, but it's learning how to handle your ups and your downs and your ups, because Of course, the downs aren't going to be as easy, but the ups can get out of control in a way that is unsafe for your well-being. And also not actually a positive experience. Like, in order something to be a positive experience, it's allowing yourself to change and learn from it. And your body needs to learn through rest, through safety, you know. And sometimes that means allowing yourself to experience the opposite of what you would have done before. And now it looks like you're ready to do this again, especially if you experience like an extremity of this. And to bring up the Leo and Venus and Leo and the retrograding last year, that's kind of what brought back these experiences. Temptations, perhaps. Because we talked a lot about temptation, or I'm not sure exactly with you, but in the last couple of months that's been a theme, especially in Sagittarius season. There was like temptation was huge, and like radical temptation. Now, what happens when you really listen to and you decide to focus is like, and now that you're learning, like, okay, the energy you put in, and even if this specific thing that you put it into doesn't quote unquote work out, it's that learning of where you're going next, right? It's always that understanding that there's something more. And yeah, it looks like taking something off your plate may be very, very good for you at this time. I just wanted to like clarify that, because I am giving you, through the cards, I'm giving interpreting advice. But sometimes I like to decide between a few different, and there's a decision between a few interpretations of cards, and the validation of the cards so far is helpful. Not saying that we always have influence, but the question and the answer that comes out is always, interesting. Yeah, over-promising yourself is just not going to be helpful. It may feel weird and hard, but there's maybe some letting go of codependency and looking at that as well. This time is it is an independent time, but it's for you. It's for your processing. It's not to harm anyone or hurt anyone. And it would be wise of you to communicate as much as you want at this time. Because we're entering the opposition season too, so it's like you're getting prepared to feel that kind of feeling. All right. Yeah, taking this as an opportunity of gaining so much intuitive wisdom, also maybe even a luck streak, that when you have an open mind and can be receptive in this way, you don't realize what can actually, what's possible. And if you can take a few moments just to imagine that sometimes, or drop into that feeling, even if it doesn't feel safe all the time, but for a few moments, and learning to be in that and process that, the reason why it will come quicker is because you're learning how to put yourself in that mode quicker. And that's if you really want to follow this intuitive insight that you're really coming to learn about yourself in a way that is going to help not only yourself, but a lot of people. Whether it's through owning your own business and employing people and doing really good business, right? That's helping people. It's not necessarily saying this is how to help people. It's just doing it. Maybe it is helping people through step-by-step action as well. But also just being a good, caring, integral coworker, boss, employee, friend, human, partner, wherever that is that you feel, and even if it's to your studies, to yourself, to your personal growth. You may be lessening your responsibilities in one way, but you're gaining more responsibility in a way that's what you need right now, what you need for your growth, for your self-esteem, for your worth, for your confidence, for your understanding also maybe of this moment and where you're headed. It's important to have an open mind this month, Virgo, and through softening the body, that's a possibility. Relaxing, learning to relax. My kitty's sitting, the other kitties sitting with us right now. If I'm not in bed by a certain time with my boyfriend and he's in bed, she's kind of like, she'll sit wherever I am. I'm surprised she's not sitting across from us until I'm ready to go to bed. It's so sweet. I know you would love that. Treat yourself that way. Like my kitty. Patience. See you next month.